So this is just some of my writings and the Justice for Aisha video that will end this series. And I wrote, if you are a biological man who hates women and are looking for a religion that says you can sleep with small girls, Islam is the religion for you. Here are some perks of this trash-ass religion that you, as a man, should be excited about, especially if you do hate women. Also, the reading of the Sharia law is very important because when you hear so many Muslims claim that Muslim is the fastest growing religion in the world because it's so peaceful and it's so loving, and Allah just has this vast reach all over the world because it's such a good religion, you have to understand male hatred of women. You have to understand that. This is the reason why this religion is growing so rapidly among young men. Not only are their mothers Muslim, but for the most part, even men who didn't grow up in a Muslim household, the Islam is very attractive if you do not like women. If you do hate women and you want to have them subjugated to your will. So we're just going to get into this and we're going to read the Sharia law. Theft is punishable by amputation of the right hand. Criticizing or denying any part of the Quran is punishable by death. Criticizing Muhammad or denying that he is a prophet is punishable by death. Criticizing or denying Allah, the God of Islam, is punishable by death. A Muslim who becomes a non-Muslim is punishable by death. A non-Muslim who leads a Muslim away from Islam is punishable by death. A non-Muslim man who marries a Muslim woman is punishable by death. A man can marry an infant girl and consummate the marriage when she is 9 years old. Girls' clitoris should be cut. Muhammad's words, Book 41, Kitab al-Adab, Hadith 5251. This is an endorsing female genital mutilation. Also, it says a woman can have one husband who can have up to 4 wives. Muhammad can have more. A man can beat his wife for insubordination. A man can unilaterally divorce his wife. A woman needs her husband's consent to divorce. So this is why you see a lot of women who are in Islam and they are married to Muslim men. They can't just readily say that they want a divorce. They have to get permission to get that divorce from their husband. Also, it says a divorced wife loses custody of all children over 6 years of age or when they exceed it. It also says testimonies of 4 male witnesses are required to prove rape against a woman. A woman who has been raped cannot testify in court against her rapist. A woman's testimony in court, allowed in property cases, carries half the weight of a man's. A female heir inherits half of what a male heir inherits. A woman cannot drive a car as it leads to fitna, upheaval. A woman cannot speak alone to a man who is not her husband or relative. Meat to eat must come from animals that have been sacrificed to Allah. It says, i.e. must be halal. And it says Muslims should engage in Taqiyya and lie to non-Muslims to advance Islam. Did you hear that? It says that Muslims can lie to non-Muslims. So here's the thing. When you do hear people who subscribe to Islam tell you bullshit, this is part of the Sharia law, that they are allowed to lie to you to advance their religion. So when we're talking about justice for Aisha, this is what we've seen in the past few years because of social media, because of the internet, and because of people just having access to information now, more so than they did back in, I guess, the 60s or 70s. Now, when you hear these Muslim scholars, and they come together, and when it comes to men and religion, you all know that they all love to sit around a round table and they're talking amongst themselves. So when you hear that these Muslim scholars today, they talk about Aisha, they always, especially today, they try to advance her age. We all know that Aisha was 6 years old when the the prophet decided to marry her. She was 9 years old when they consummated the marriage. Everyone knows that. But on YouTube right now, if you go to any Islamic scholar's page, he will lie to you. They will lie. You just heard it in Sharia law. They are allowed to lie to advance Islam. They will lie to you and tell you that no, Aisha really wasn't 9 years old. She was more closer to the age of 18. 19, 20, 35, 46. They're doing everything they can to romanticize Islam in the eyes of young girls and women. And the only way that they can do that, especially in the Western world, is to lie about the facts. And we're a bit more into it. I'm just going to give you a backstory of the pedophile, the prophet, so that you can have this information for your own. So the rise of Islam is intrinsically linked with Prophet Muhammad, believed by Muslims to be the last in a long line of prophets that include Moses, who I told you before did not exist, and also Jesus, who also did not exist. Moses, unlike unlike Moses and fake baby Jesus Christ, was an illiterate. He was an illiterate man that claims this is all according to him now. This is Muhammad, an illiterate man who claimed that he was visited by an angel named Gabriel in a cave when he was 40 years old. And in this visit, he claimed to receive a message or revelation from God. In 613 CE, Muhammad started preaching these revelations publicly, proclaiming that God is one, that complete submission, Islam to God, Allah, is the right way of life, and that he was a prophet of this make-believe God that gave him these make-believe revelations. And also, at the beginning of him spreading his ridiculous message, he did face hostility for 13 years. He had to run for his life at one point. He also fled persecution similar to Joseph Smith. Now, if you are familiar with Joseph Smith was a man who claimed that an angel met him. An angel kind of dealt with him, and he was able to kind of start this religion because this angel gave him direction to do so. Muhammad's story is no different from Joseph Smith's story. It's all bullshit. So it says, I wrote, he fled persecution similar to the Joseph Smith, who was another nut job, and Muhammad died in 632, a few months after returning from the farewell pilgrimage known as the Hajj. Muhammad again could not read shit. He couldn't write either. So he had to get other individuals who knew how to read and write to transcribe messages from his fake God and from that fake angel into a fake book. And that book today is called the Quran. So when you hear people talk about Muhammad and him being this wonderful prophet and him having all of this, these blessings, the man couldn't read. He couldn't read and he couldn't write. And he used whoever to transcribe his message into a book, and that is the book that you see people following to this very day. A book that an illiterate put out there. Imagine that. They are holding up this Quran, and they are holding up this Sharia law, and they are holding up all of these things against women and girls, and they are doing all of these practices such as female genital mutilation that we hear in certain parts of Africa. They're doing all of these things, and it all comes from a book put together by an illiterate. This is what they're banking their entire existence on. This is what they're banking their entire lives on. A book put together by the illiterate. And this is also my opinion as well. I don't really believe that these men love Allah. They don't really love Allah, and they don't love Muhammad. What they do love is the story that put them down as the one in charge. This is the erection that they get from being Muslim men. It's not because they love Allah. It's not because they have any feelings towards that. I don't think that they do, because if anything, look at Allah's treatment of them and their forefathers and their forefathers' fathers. Allah has left them in the desert chilling forever. So much so that when you look at Islam and when you look at Muslim people, a lot of the times they don't even stay in their own homeland. Look all over the world and they're scattered. Why are they so scattered? If Allah loved you as much as you claim that Allah loved you, then he would bless you right where your feet are. Why doesn't he? Why is it that every single situation we see with men who believe or subscribe to this religion, they're always running from their homeland. They're always running to a hill. Even right now, we see what's going on in the UK. The UK, they're under pressure right now because, some people are saying that Muslim men have taken over and they want Sharia law implemented in the UK. These men want Sharia law implemented in Canada. They want Sharia law implemented in Sweden. And everyone is fighting against it because they're saying, rightfully so, you already had Sharia law in the country that you left. Why not go back there? Do you see what I'm saying? So these men want to bring this nonsense to other places because they see the liberties of women in these other places. And as men, they don't like it. But just going back to my writings I wrote for further clarity, the history of that ridiculous book of fairy tales, the Quran, is very similar to the fairy tale Bible book, and this is how it came together. Now pay attention to this, because when I said before that these religious men do not only think nonsense, write nonsense, and rub their dicks together and hate women, they also put their nonsense into law, and those laws sit on top of women and children. And you can tell that the Quran is all bullshit by and why this religion in particular, like I said before, is so popular with men. Not only do Muslim men get to reign over women and children because Allah and Muhammad said so, and other Muslims said so, other Muslim prophets said so, other male perks for signing up for Islam include this small list that I made as well. And if you do read the Quran, you can also see a lot of this listed there. And you should read the Quran. Every woman should have a copy of the book, similar to the Bible. So when you do hear bullshit, you can, point it out. And I wrote, man perks listed in the Quran include, this is one of them, an eternal erection when you die. You get an eternal erection. You also get, I said this, when they are alive, they get permission to beat their wives if she gets out of line, permission to rape women who do not subscribe to Islam. Women who are non-believers are not seen as human beings in Islam. 72 virgins as a gift when you do pass away. When you do pass away, the paradise, the Islam, Muslim paradise, or Allah's heaven, has rivers of alcoholic beverages. It also has shade, like, shade from the sun. I guess the shade from the sun is needed. So when you do drink your alcohol, you're not getting really hot when you're consuming that beverage, right? So they needed shade in paradise. Also, the ability to have your wife watch you bang the 72 virgins that Allah gave you, and her gift, because some people out there saying, well, what do women get when they get to heaven? Women, when they get to heaven, they lose the ability to be jealous. They lose that ability to be jealous. So when their husbands are sleeping with the 72 virgins, the wife's gift from Allah is that she won't kind of feel bad about it. She won't nag the husband because he's enjoying the virgins that Allah gave him. Right? And he removes jealousy from her. That's one of the perks that women get. And I think that's basically it. And she won't have the need to nag her husband when she does see him drinking alcohol in the shade and having a good time with, the 72 virgins. Another perk that young men love about Islam is the ability or permission to sleep with children as young as 6 years old. And that's also a thing, because I read to you before that there was an article talking about, and I think this was in Iran or Iraq. I have to go back and check the video, but it said that right now they're looking to kind of lower the age for marriage officially in law in those places to the age of 9. And there were some women who were protesting and they were going crazy about it. But it's like, what are you going to do? If this is your religion, this is what you subscribe to, why are you protesting something that you're subscribed to? Might as well you not be a Muslim than to be a Muslim and have issues with the doctrine. The doctrine says these men can marry infants. These men can marry infants and they can consummate the marriages when the children are 6 years old. So for women who are Muslims to feel a way about this, it's kind of like, well, you should lead the religion or not subscribe to it, because the religion says men have the permission to do these things. It also says, another perk that I wrote about too, another perk is women and girls are required to dress like this. See the photo right now on the screen. This is what women and girls are required to dress like, so that their human bodies are never seen and they appear as these black shadows in movement. And even when the women and girls are dressed like this, in Islam, brainwashes them just enough for them to subscribe to the belief that dressing like this is pleasing to Allah himself. And even with that, if a girl or woman is assaulted while wearing her black protective garb that Allah loves for her to wear, that assault is still her fault, because in Islam, women are viewed as inferior to men. So says the Quran, men are a degree above women in status. This is Surah 2, 228. And Allah has made the one mankind superior to the other, womankind. See Surah 4:34. And you have to keep in mind what I said to you earlier about the Sharia law and Taqiyya. Muslim men will lie to you. They will lie to your face, and they get permission to lie to you because it's in their law to lie to you to advance Islam. So when you talk to men about these things and you ask them outright, is it true that you are allowed to marry an infant? He's going to lie to your face and say, no, that's not true. You're taking it out of context. It's complicated. Remember what I said about all male ideologies, all male religions, all patriarchal Abrahamic religion, it's complicated. When you ask them questions, is it okay for you to marry a 9-year-old child? Well, no, it's complicated. They have to lie to you. That's Taqiyyah. So I just want for people to remember that for this episode, when you are engaging with Muslim men and you ask them these questions and these issues that people who are in the Western world see, why would you be able to marry an infant? Why should you marry a 9-year-old child? Why are the women dressed the way that they are dressed? It looks oppressive. They will lie to you and say that it's actually not oppressive. Taqiyyah, they have to do that to advance their religion. And you're going to hear this as well when it comes to you even speaking to Muslim women, because I've had friends who were Muslim and they were women and they used to dress with the whole hijab covering their eyes and everything. They were never happy, but they couldn't outright go out and say that they weren't happy. They had to say that, well, Allah wants me to dress this way. I'm comfortable. I get respected because you look at my eyes and you don't look at my body. Well, even the eyes are covered in some occasions. So we can't even see your eyes. Sometimes you can't even see yourself and how you look, right? And I remember I had this friend and her name was actually Aisha, and I knew her in undergrad. And she was married with a lot of kids. I think she had about 5 children and she was really young. And she didn't want to be married anymore, but she couldn't get a divorce. And the reason why she couldn't get a divorce is because, one, she claimed that she was an illegal, like she didn't have papers to live in the United States. And 2, her husband had all of her information. So even if she did get permission to get a divorce from this man, she would lose everything. And that's the situations that you see with a lot of Muslim women. If they do divorce from these men, they lose it all. And a lot of them, because they know this, they will present themselves as being these happy homemakers when underneath it all, they're trapped. And no one is happy when they're trapped. And again, if you ask her outright if this is true, she's going to lie to you. And she's always going to lie to you because lying will protect Islam. And the goal is always to lie to advance Islam. So in Justice for Aisha, we talk about how a lot of these Muslim individuals, they claim that no, Aisha wasn't 6 years old. She wasn't 6 years old at all. She wasn't 9 years old either. That's a lie. And it was made up by the Christians who hate Islam. No, Muhammad waited for Aisha to turn a legal age before he married her. And this is what they want you to believe because they know how it looks. And it's all a lie. So that's the word of the day. It would be Taqiyyah. So Taqiyyah, Taqiyyah. And again, when you do confront Muslim men or you ask them these questions about, so what is up with this eternal erection? What is up with this 72 virgins? What is up with this alcohol and these rivers of honey? Oh, well, it's complicated. The erection is eternal, but it's not for sexual purposes. The 72 virgins are eternal, but the 72 virgins aren't there so that we can have sex with them. No, not at all. This is what they want you to believe. Muslim men will lie to your face, similar to what we saw in the Olympics. Here's a man fighting a woman, and they're all looking in your face and they're lying to you, and they're saying, no, that's not a man. What are you talking about? XY chromosomes, 2 balls in a cock. No, it's not a man at all. It's a woman. It's a female. Right? And this is Taqiyyah. They have to lie to you to protect their religion. And this is why you see this happen all the time. And I just wanted to go to, there's something in that Sihah Hadith wrote, and it's from, it's IBN Majah. And he wrote that the perpetual versions will all have appetizing vaginas and that the penis of the elected never softens. The erection is eternal. So when you go out and you ask men about that, a Muslim man, he will tell you up and down, oh no, the erection is not for sex. We just get erections in heaven for no reason. It's not really for sex. You're getting it all wrong. You're perverted. Why are you so perverted? When in actuality, they are the ones who are the most perverted. They're the ones who are. And back to my writings, I wrote also, Allah himself made men superior to women, so asserts Muhammad. He also says in the hadith, this diminishment of a woman's testimony is because of the deficiency of a woman's mind. Imagine a man not even knowing how to read or write himself, claiming that a woman's mind has a deficiency. This is all the hate of women. This is all the hate of girls. Also in Surah 4:34, it states that men are managers of the affairs of women because Allah has made the one superior to the other. Muhammad, like many other religious men, was also very superstitious, right? The hadith says that women are part of an evil omen. Muhammad said, evil omen is in three things: the horse, the woman, and in the house. So you have the same backstory to this piece of shit Muhammad and his nonsense religion that he started. So let's explore his advocacy of pedophilia. If you have done any research into Islam in the most recent decade or so, you will see what I spoke to you about earlier of all of these Muslim scholars coming forth and saying that, well, no, in actuality, Aisha's age is wrong. So I found the article that I spoke to you about before. The country is Iraq. And what they're doing now, and this is recently, this is 2024, they're lowering the age of marriage officially in law. Because, you know, they have their religion and then they have the legal system. So in the legal system, they're lowering the age of marriage from 15 years old, what it is over there now, to 9 years old. And they're doing this officially as we speak. So when you hear things about these scholars who came out before and said, no, Aisha was at 9 years old, why is it so that they lower the age of marriage and that acceptance to age 9? If she was at 9 years old, like these scholars are saying, because again, Taqiyya, they lied. They lied and said, no, she was at 9 years old. She was at 6 years old. And they lied to make Islam look better. Now in Iraq, they're officially trying to lower the age of marriage for these young girls to 9. And I'm going to say young girls because boys are not affected by this. There are no Muslim women out there who are running to marry 9-year-old boys. It doesn't happen. This affects girls because of their sex. This affects women because of their sex, right? And we have to keep that in mind with this Justice for Aisha video. So with continuing with that, and because we talked about the word of the day, Taqiyya, and how Muslim men have to lie to you and these Muslim scholars have to lie to you to protect Islam, I have to make sure that you remember that Aisha was a 6-year-old child. She was a 6-year-old child and she was 9 years old when she had sex with a 54-year-old man. Those are the facts. Those are the facts. So when you do hear these scholars and they're out there and they're talking about, oh, Aisha was so mature for her age. She was very inquisitive. She was very knowledgeable. Even after the the prophet died, she went on to spread the message that he left her. They will tell you all of these things to make you believe that she was actually a happy individual. No 9-year-old girl is happy sleeping with a 54-year-old man. I don't give a shit what anyone says. Because Muslim men will lie to your face, and they have to lie to your face to get you to believe in their bullshit. Men will lie, period. But Muslim men, I believe, they take it to a different level. And this is really funny, but this is just an example of it. When the whole thing happened with Imam Khalif in the Olympics, his trainers told other boxers before he got to the Olympics that the reason why he looked so aggressive is because he was raised in the mountains. Can you believe that? This is the lies that I'm talking about. They will lie to you on a different level about bullshit, and they think that you should believe in it because they're Muslim and they're men. And if you are a person who has a Quran, you already know what the Quran says about the magical mountains. We know what they are because they're fucking mountains. But to the Muslim man, the mountains is a place that's special. Apparently, it's a place that turns young men into women overnight. And that's just my opinion. These men don't love Allah. These men don't love Islam. These men don't love Muhammad. What they do love is the fact that Muhammad said what they can and cannot do to little girls and women. This is what they love. They love the fact that they can have this reign over a group of people. And the reason why I say this is because we don't see Allah doing anything for their countries. We don't see Allah rewarding their beliefs. We don't see Allah rewarding them for harming women or doing any of the things that they carry out. We don't see any of it. If anything, we see Allah abandoning the majority of the men. And look at some of the places where Islam reigns. Look at, for example, Nigeria. Look at West Africa. Look at the amount of people in poverty right now in Nigeria, but all of them are Muslim. All of them are religious. All of these men are waiting for this afterlife that no one can prove exists, but this is why they believe in it. And I think they believe in it because it says, well, you are a man and you could do whatever you want to do to a child, and this is a religious order. And this is what they follow through on. It can't be for their love for Allah because Allah is not delivering them any peace. A lot of them are struggling. A lot of these men are broke. A lot of these men are poor. And the only way that they can get out of poverty a lot of the times is if they have access to children and if they can sell those children to the highest bidder. We just saw the CNN documentary a few years ago where the father was in debt. He had no money. They had all these kids, and then he sold his daughter off to a 55-year-old man, his 6 or 7-year-old daughter. I don't remember how old she was, but this is why these men love religion. They are allowed to use their daughters and children as collateral. They are allowed to use women to get off. They are allowed to beat women if they're so ever happen to be angry about something. They won't attack another man, but they will attack the women and children in their family. And this is what Islam gives them permission to do. So it's not about Allah. It's not about love. And the reason why they keep pointing to Aisha as this example that women should follow is because her example was a child. Of course, she's going to follow orders. She's a child. What can she do when her husband is a 54-year-old man and everyone around her trafficked her off to deal with this man who wanted to marry her when she was 6? The reason why Aisha is painted up as this good guy or this good girl, I'm sorry, is because of that example. She was submissive, but why was she submissive? She was submissive because she was a child. That's the reason why these men hold up Aisha on their shoulders as being a true example of a Muslim woman. She wasn't a woman when she married the pedophile. I mean, the prophet. And this is how you know that it's sick. And this is how you know that Muhammad was sick. And this is how you know that the entire religion is a disease, is because of these reasons. If you ever went or had a day off and you went to a park and you so happened to see a 6-year-old child or a 6-year-old girl, look at a 6-year-old girl right now. Anyone, just Google what a 6-year-old girl looks like or a 9-year-old girl looks like. This is the example of who a 54-year-old man decided to consummate with. So this is how you know that it's all a disease. It's all mind rot. It's all disgusting. It's all perversion. And Aisha should not be celebrated in that way. She should not be held up as being this individual who was this scholar, because I read that too. Oh, she was a scholar and she was, she wrote many books and she had all of this education and all of this knowledge. Maybe so, but when she married the pedophile, I mean the prophet, she was a child. You don't really hear a lot about Aisha's life as a child. I think it's mentioned in the Quran that, she was playing with dolls when she met the pedophile, I mean the prophet. And it says that her father was someone that Muhammad knew, and they had this relationship, and she was kind of given off as a recommendation by someone else and someone else and someone else. These were all adults at the time participating in what we know today as human trafficking. They human trafficked this child to this 54-year-old pedophile, I mean prophet, and they did so, and then they told the story to the world. And when this magic thing occurred where people started to discuss the age of consent, Aisha's age magically changed in the eyes of the Islamic scholar. She was always 6 years old. And don't let these Muslim men lie to you so that you can respect her as being someone who's deserving of anything other than horrific feelings and sadness. She was a child. She was a child and she was given to this man. And today, to buffer what happened to her, you will hear every Muslim woman, every Muslim man buffer her story as well. It doesn't matter that she was 9 years old and she slept with a 54-year-old. She still went on to do great things for Islam. She still went on to write out the hadiths, and she did this and she did that, and she did all of these things that they want you to pay attention to, and not the fact that this is a man who slept with a child. Because in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, they want to normalize men, grown men, sleeping with children. So this is why they minimize it so much in a religion like Islam. The reason why it's nothing to them is because they want it to be nothing. That way, if it's nothing, that means you won't really get appalled or shocked when you see a 23-year-old man and a 6-year-old walking down the street hand in hand. This is what these men want. When it comes to all religions, a lot of them are messed up, but most of them, well, I should say 100% of them, the belly of all of them is sex, the belly of all of them is lust, and the belly of all of them is child perversion and pornography and all things ill to the woman and child. That's just what it is. They want to pretty it up with religion and heaven and beauty and peace, but Muslims right now don't have any peace. I don't see them having any peace. If anything, a lot of them are going through this issue with the world rejecting what they believe in, and rightfully so, because what they believe in doesn't even look like it's serving them. They would like for you to believe that they're so blessed, but we know that they're not blessed. Because when we look at their cities and what they built on this religion, Islam, it's all falling apart. And there's proof of this. Look at Egypt. Look at all of these countries before Islam came in like an infectious disease and sunk its teeth into that culture. It all changed. Women in the 1970s in Iraq were just regular women. They were going to school, they were working, they were literate, they were contributing to society. Now look at them. There's laws that say that they can't go to school. There's nothing that they can do to kind of educate themselves, to liberate themselves outside of a man's permission. So this religion is disgusting, and this is what justice for Aisha is really important, because she was a child and she should not be celebrated for anything other than that. Anything other than that. She should not be celebrated as this beacon of light. No, she was a child and she was abused, and it was wrong. And I don't give a shit about what anyone says about it. That's just the truth. Get into the comment section. Let me know what you think. Like, share, and subscribe.